No one owes you anything. And when you understand that, you become truly free. We live in a constant state of waiting. Waiting to be recognized, to be valued, to be chosen, to get back what we gave. But while you wait, you chain yourself. Because the one who waits is a slave to a promise no one made, to a debt no one signed, to a world that isn't obligated to give you what you think you deserve. No one owes you anything. These words may hurt at first, but if you understand them, if you let them in, they can set you free. Free from resentment, from the need to control, from the frustration born when the world doesn't meet your expectations. This audiobook is not an invitation to cynicism. It is an invitation to responsibility, to live from your center, without depending on anyone's recognition, approval, or validation. We're going to walk together, chapter by chapter, to understand what it means to be a free man in body, mind, and soul, and it all begins here. Chapter 1. The Invisible Trap, the Price of Expecting What You're Not Owed. From childhood, we're taught that if you're good, you'll get what you deserve. That if you work hard, you'll be rewarded. That if you love, you'll receive love. And so, we grow up believing that life is a fair exchange. But reality hits differently. You do everything right, and still you're not chosen. You give your soul, and no one says thank you. You sacrifice, and no one even notices. And when that happens, something inside breaks. Because the soul can't understand why the world didn't hold up its end of the deal. Here's the real issue. You signed an invisible contract, but the world didn't sign it with you. It's like waiting for a letter from someone who never promised to write. Like demanding the sea to have shape, or fire not to burn. That's the trap. Believing others are obligated to give you what you decided to give them, Epictetus was clear. Don't expect events to happen as you wish. Accept events as they happen. That is the path to peace. Expecting emotional fairness from others is handing over your power. Because your mood gets tied to what others decide to give you or not give you, and that's when you lose your power. A free man expects nothing. He does what's right because it's right, not because someone will reward him for it. When you act like that, you become invincible. Stoicism is not a doctrine of resignation. It is a strategy for freedom. The day you release the idea that someone owes you something, the day you stop looking outward and waiting, is the day you become the architect of your life. And that's when real transformation begins. Chapter 2. The Poison of Expectation. How the need for approval weakens you without you noticing. The need for approval is a cage made of invisible bars. And the worst part is, you build it yourself. Every time you do something just to be praised, you chain yourself. Every time you silence your truth to avoid discomfort, you chain yourself. Every time you live trying not to disappoint others, you abandon yourself. At first it seems noble. It seems loving. But over time you realize you no longer know who you are without others. You lose yourself in their gaze, in their words, in their judgment. Marcus Aurelius said it powerfully. Do not let your mind become a slave to things that do not depend on you. And what doesn't depend on you? Other people's opinions, external validation, the need to be liked by everyone. The Stoics knew that living dependent on the judgment of others is a guaranteed path to inner weakness. Because the one who constantly seeks approval doesn't act from essence, but from anxiety. And that anxiety disguises itself as kindness, as politeness, as empathy. But deep down, it's not goodness, it's fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of being criticized, fear of not being enough. And that fear is poison, a slow poison that makes you increasingly insecure, more compliant, more easily manipulated. There's a story about a freed slave in ancient Rome named Publius. It said he was admired for his calmness and emotional independence. A senator once asked how he endured the scorn of the powerful without reacting. And Publius answered, "Contempt only affects those who feel unworthy. I expect nothing, and that's why I'm free. When you no longer need to be liked, you become more authentic. When you no longer need to be valued, you act with integrity. And when you expect nothing, everything that comes becomes a gift, not a debt. Freeing yourself from the need for approval doesn't make you cold. It makes you free. And that is a power no one can take from you." Chapter 3. When you expect too much, you lose too much. There's a silent price we pay for waiting. Waiting for love to be returned. Waiting for your effort to be recognized. Waiting to be chosen. Waiting for the perfect moment. And in that waiting, life slips away. Waiting is like walking with an invisible rope tied to your neck, a rope that doesn't choke you all at once. But with every disappointment, every silence, every broken promise, it tightens a bit more. Until one day, you can't breathe anymore. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus said, "Do not cling to what does not depend on you, or you will suffer every time the world fails to meet your illusions." And that's exactly what we do today. We expect our boss to value our work without saying it. We expect our partner to guess what we need. We expect life to be fair, as if it owes us something. But the world is not designed to meet your expectations. It's designed to reveal who you are when they aren't met. Waiting is believing someone owes you something. And when you live like that, everything hurts you, everything frustrates you, everything feels missing. It's like wanting to plant seeds and demanding rain. You can prepare the soil, you can plant with care, but you can't control the rain. The only thing you can do is work with what you have, and keep walking, even if the sky stays dry. Think of people you know today, people who waited too long. Do you remember someone who spent years waiting for a message from someone who never came back? Someone who sacrificed their calling, waiting for their family's approval? Someone who never started their dream, because they were waiting for perfect conditions? We live in an age of anxiety, because we live in an age of overwhelming expectations. And every time you expect the world to behave according to your wishes, you're placing yourself in a position of emotional weakness. The free man does not wait, he acts. The free man does not demand the world treat him how he wants, he adapts and transforms what he can. Because when you understand that no one owes you anything, and that waiting won't change reality, you begin to create instead of depend. You begin to move instead of staying frozen waiting for a sign. And when you stop waiting, everything improves, because you no longer feel like a victim. You become the protagonist. Chapter 4. The world is not obligated to be fair to you. When you were a child, you were probably told that if you were good, good things would happen. That if you were generous, you would receive the same in return. That if you did what's right, life would be fair to you. And you grew up believing that until the world showed you otherwise. The world does not always reward the hardest worker, nor honor the most loyal, nor love the one who loves the most. And no, that doesn't mean you should become cold or cynical. It means you must mature emotionally. And understand that justice is not an automatic right. It is an inner conquest. Seneca wrote, "Often life seems to favor the unworthy, but that must not move your will or your virtue." We see it every day. An influencer earns millions for superficiality, while a retired teacher can't pay the rent. A corrupt politician takes vacations in the Caribbean, while a single mother struggles to buy medicine. And you, who give your best, feel like sometimes it's still not enough. But hear this, that feeling of injustice can be a prison or an awakening. If you feel betrayed by the world, you'll remember Will Smith at the Oscars. Not for his career, but for the moment his rage exploded. It was unfair that his decades of effort were overshadowed by an impulsive reaction. But it was also a lesson, because the one who reaches the top is not always rewarded. The world can turn its back on you at your brightest moment, and your reaction will define whether you fall or rise. Think also of Lionel Messi. For years, he was accused of not giving the same to his national team as he did to Barca. He worked hard, suffered, and still, the Argentine press punished him. But he didn't demand the world to be fair. He persisted, and that resilience is what made him a symbol, not just for his talent, but for his character. And that's the key. You're not here so the world treats you with automatic fairness. You're here to act justly, even when justice isn't returned to you. The true Stoic doesn't need guarantees, because his peace doesn't depend on the outcome. It depends on the coherence between what he thinks, what he says, and what he does. The free man doesn't ask the universe to give him what he deserves. He does what must be done, even if no one sees, even if no one applauds, because he knows that the true reward is becoming someone who doesn't break under injustice, but grows stronger within it. Chapter 5. No one is obligated to save you, not even those who love you. It may sound harsh, but it's one of the most liberating truths you can learn. No one is obligated to save you or rescue you, not even your partner, your parents, your friends. And the sooner you accept this, the stronger you'll become. Many times, we fall into the emotional trap of hoping someone will notice us, that they'll realize we're suffering, that they'll come, hold us, and pull us out of the pit. But life is not a movie, and not everyone who loves you knows how to help. And many simply can't. Epictetus said, "Don't seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." That means, don't ask to be lifted. Lift yourself, because you can, and because it's your responsibility. Look at Britney Spears' case. For years, she was under legal guardianship, trapped by decisions others made for her. And even though the world knew her, and millions followed her, no one could truly save her until she, with help, yes, but from within, raised her voice and demanded her freedom. It was a painful process, imperfect, but liberating. Help may come, but it shouldn't be expected as someone else's duty. Because if you wait to be saved, you give them the power to let you fall. And this applies to your everyday life. It's not your parents' fault if you don't know how to manage your money. It's not your partner's fault if you don't know how to love yourself. It's not your friend's fault if they don't understand your pain. It's your job to learn to be your own shelter, your own mentor, your own light. Pablo, a young man who had lost everything during the pandemic, his job, his partner, his home, spent entire nights waiting for someone to show up. But no one came. And it was that abandonment, that long night, that made him discover that the true hero doesn't come from outside, but awakens within. Today, he's an entrepreneur, helping young people through emotional crises. Not because someone saved him, but because he learned to rise with empty hands and still build. No one owes you anything, not even their care. But when you choose to care for yourself, without asking, without begging, without demanding, you become magnetic, because emotional independence shines. Don't wait to be dragged out of the swamp. Walk, even if it's slow, even if it hurts, because in that effort is where true self-respect is born. Chapter 6. The world is not fair, but you can be fair to yourself. There's a phrase we've heard since childhood. The world is unfair, and yes, it is. But what truly matters is not how fair the world is to you, but how fair you are to yourself. The Stoics didn't seek a perfect world. They knew it was chaotic, that sometimes the guilty would walk free and the innocent would be punished, that fortune wouldn't fall on the most virtuous, but often on the loudest. That's why their philosophy pointed inward, to the only thing we can truly control. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, with all the power in the world in his hands, watched his children die, faced betrayal, plagues, wars, and still wrote every night to remind himself that virtue didn't depend on what happened to him, but on how he responded. He never gave in to resentment, because he understood he couldn't demand the universe to be fair to him, but he could demand of himself inner justice. Today, in the 21st century, we still repeat the same old mistake. We believe life owes us something for being good people, that if we work hard, we'll get promoted, that if we're loyal, we'll be loved the same, that if we give everything, we'll get it all back. But the world doesn't work like that. There's no signed contract. There's no invisible judge handing out rewards and punishments according to our good deeds. What there is a decision you can make daily. To be fair to yourself. Not demand more than you can give. Not punish yourself for past mistakes. Not ignore your limits. Not stay silent just to fit in. Not keep giving to those who only take. When you are fair to yourself, you stop making promises you can't keep and start setting real commitments. You become someone trustworthy, not for others, but for yourself. Watch how many people behave on social media. They compare themselves, criticize themselves, destroy themselves internally just for not meeting some ideal of success or beauty. That's not justice. That's self-abuse. Do you want justice? Then be the first to treat yourself with compassion, but also with discipline. Like a good teacher who does not indulge, but also does not humiliate. Be that teacher. The world is unequal, but you can create an island of integrity in the middle of chaos. And that island is you. Chapter 7. Don't expect understanding from those who don't even understand their own life. One of the most silent forms of emotional slavery is expecting others to understand us, expecting them to see our intentions, to read between the lines, to take the time to truly know us. And when they don't, we feel betrayed, abandoned, misunderstood. But how can you ask for understanding from someone who doesn't even understand themselves? How can you demand someone carry your story if they still haven't learned to carry their own? That's not empathy. It's naivety. Epictetus explained it with a simple metaphor. Don't ask a blind man to admire a painting, nor a deaf man to be moved by a symphony. And yet we do it constantly. We seek validation from emotionally blind people, recognition from those who don't even know their own worth. Think of how many times you explained yourself again and again, how many messages you wrote anxiously to clear up misunderstandings, how many apologies you gave without having done anything wrong. All of that because you hoped the other person would walk in your shoes, when they can barely stand on their own. Look at today's culture. Social media full of snap judgments, of opinions formed in 10 seconds, of labels without context. Do you expect understanding in that environment? Then you will suffer. The truly free man doesn't need to be understood to move forward, because he understands himself. He knows his reasons, his heart, his truth. He's like the tree that stands firm even if the wind doesn't understand him. He doesn't argue with the storm. He just anchors deeper into his roots. Freeing yourself from that need is an inner revolution. It is to look into the eyes of those who misinterpret you, and instead of begging for explanation, remain silent. Not out of pride, but out of wisdom. When you no longer need to be understood to feel at peace, you discover a freedom most will never know. Chapter 8. Your debt is to yourself, not to the world. All this time, you've lived believing you owed something, that you had some kind of silent commitment to the world, a moral debt to others, to your family, your environment, your friends, your past. As if simply existing obligated you to please, to fulfill, to sacrifice. But today, at the end of this journey, I want you to see it differently. The only debt you truly have is to yourself, to your essence, to the child you were and the man you are destined to become. You owe your peace to no one else. You owe your time to those who don't value it. You owe no explanation to those who chose to judge you without knowing you. You don't owe your future to the expectations of others. You only owe yourself a life worth living, a life with purpose, with courage, with truth. I know it's not easy to walk that path, because being free isn't always comfortable, because letting go of the role of the good one, the understanding one, the useful one, may make you look selfish in the eyes of those who benefited from your submission. But ask yourself, who bears the cost of always pleasing others? Who pays with anxiety, with silence, with frustration? Always you. And if you're the one paying, then you're the one who must decide. What is worth saying yes to, and what deserves a firm enough? The Stoics taught us to honor what is within our control, and to let go with dignity what is not. They taught us that the greatest victory isn't in conquering others, but in not being conquered by our own internal chains. You decide whether to remain the man who always gives, always understands, always adapts, or finally become the man who chooses himself, who sets boundaries, who walks with purpose, even if that means leaving behind those who never intended to stay. And if this audiobook resonated with you, if a single word hurt you, or awakened something in you, don't ignore it, because that's your starting point. This doesn't end here. You're just beginning to see yourself for who you truly are. And if you dare to continue, there are more lessons you haven't yet heard, more paths you haven't yet walked, and more versions of yourself waiting to be set free. So come back, because this is not the end. It's only the first step of the man who no longer needs to ask permission to be free.